All right, diving right in today, we're going deep on Ciguatera fish poisoning. You know, it's a foodborne illness that you might not think about all that much.
Right.
But it's actually more common than people realize.
Yeah, becoming a bigger problem.
Especially the oceans warming up. It's a global issue.
Absolutely. A growing concern.
And beyond that, it can get kind of strange.
Oh, yeah.
Not your average tummy ache.
Definitely not.
We'll talk about what to watch out for, what fish are the risky ones.
Absolutely.
And how to stay safe. Oh, and by the way, if you're into this whole world of toxins and poisons, our friends at medicaltoxic.com
Great resource.
have a really cool podcast you should check out.
Yeah, all sorts of interesting stuff over there.
But for today, let's stick with the ciguatera thing. It all starts with, believe it or not, tiny algae.
That's right, little marine algae.
So how do we get from these microscopic algae to, like, a fish that can make us sick?
Well, these algae, they produce toxins called ciguatoxins. And then smaller fish, they eat the algae, and then bigger fish eat the little fish.
Oh, I see.
And so on, up the food chain. So the toxins, they build up at each level.
Okay.
So by the time a big fish, you know, like a barracuda or a grouper, ends up on your dinner plate, it could have a lot of those ciguatoxins.
It's like a toxic telephone game, but with fish.
Exactly. Bioaccumulation, that's what it's called.
And this is happening in, like, certain parts of the world more than others, I'm guessing.
Yeah. You think warm, tropical water, coral reefs.
Okay.
Caribbean, Pacific Islands, the Indian Ocean.
The hot spots.
Those are the hot spots. In the U.S., it's Florida, Hawaii.
Makes sense.
But here's the thing, with, you know, global seafood trade,
Yeah.
you can find ciguatera pretty much anywhere these days.
That's kind of scary. You said earlier it's more common than we realize.
Yeah, ciguatera poisoning, it's not a mandatory reportable disease everywhere.
Okay.
So there's a lot of cases that just aren't documented.
Oh, I see.
Some people think the real numbers could be like 10 times higher.
10 times.
Wow. Than what's actually reported.
That's a hidden danger for sure.
Yeah.
So let's say you do eat some fish that has these secret toxins.
Right.
What happens then?
Most people, they just think it's like a stomach bug.
Yeah, like food poisoning.
Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But ciguatera, it's
Yeah.
way more complex than just regular food poisoning.
So this is where it gets weird, right? What's the strange stuff?
Well, it can really mess with your nervous system. There's this thing called cold allodynia. It's really unusual. It's like your temperature perception gets all flipped around.
What, like you can't tell if something's hot or cold?
Yeah, imagine touching something cold and it feels burning hot.
No.
Or the other way around.
So you could hold an ice cube and think it's burning you.
Exactly. And that's not even all of it.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. Tingling or numbness in your hands and feet.
Okay.
Itching, but no rash.
Huh.
Muscle weakness, dizziness. All sorts of neurological things.
So it's a bad stomach bug plus, like, neurological weirdness. Anything else to worry about?
Well, your cardiovascular system can be affected too.
Oh, no.
But that's less common. Slow heart rate, low blood pressure, irregular heartbeat sometimes.
Wow.
And then there's long-term stuff too.
Like what?
Like anxiety, depression, fatigue, can't sleep.
Seriously.
Ciguatera can really mess you up, even after the first symptoms are gone.
So not just food poisoning, it's like a whole body attack.
Pretty much.
If you think you've got it, what do? Is there a cure?
No antidote, unfortunately.
No.
Treatment is just managing the symptoms. Fluids for dehydration, painkillers for the aches.
And for the temperature thing, anything for that.
Sometimes doctors use IV mannitol.
Mannitol, okay.
It's a type of sugar alcohol.
Huh.
The idea is that it reduces swelling in your nerves.
Oh, I see.
Maybe helps with oxidative stress too.
But it doesn't always work.
The research is mixed. Some studies say it helps, some not so much.
So it's a gamble.
Kind of. There's some new stuff being looked at. Seaweed extracts.
Seaweed?
Yeah, they might bind to the ciguatoxins.
Interesting.
But it's all early research.
So prevention is key here.
Definitely. Gotta know which fish to avoid, where your seafood is coming from.
Right?
Can't talk prevention without mentioning the main culprits. Barracuda, grouper, snapper.
Oh, yeah, those are the big ones.
Amberjack, moray eel, those two.
Right.
There's a good reason they're the ones everyone talks about, but it's not always so simple.
How so?
Well, remember bioaccumulation.
Yeah.
The bigger the fish, the longer it's been eating other fish, the more likely it is to have a ton of ciguatoxins.
So size matters.
It does. And here's the tricky part.
What's that?
Even fish that aren't usually a problem, like mahi-mahi,
Oh, really?
They can be contaminated too if they're caught in the wrong spot.
So it's not just the type of fish, but also where it comes from?
Exactly.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It is. And to make things worse, you can't tell just by looking.
Oh, so you can't see it?
Nope.
Can't smell it. Can't even taste it.
You can't taste it. Wow.
Nope. And cooking doesn't get rid of the toxin.
So you can't cook it out?
Nope. Freezing, salting, drying, nothing works.
So how do you know if a fish is bad?
Only way to know for sure is lab testing.
That's not very practical.
It isn't.
So, bottom line, what's the best way to stay safe?
Best thing is to avoid those high-risk fish altogether, especially from areas with Ciguatera outbreaks.
Okay, so just don't eat those fish.
If you do eat fish from those areas, go for smaller ones.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about that thing about flies not landing on bad fish?
That's just a story.
Really?
It's a cool story, but it's not true. Flies might avoid some fish for other reasons.
So no relying on flies.
Right.
All right. Well, this is fascinating, but a little scary, too.
It's serious.
Ciguatera sounds pretty nasty.
It can be. Can really mess you up long term.
But at least knowing about it helps.
Exactly. Awareness is key.
Knowing what to look for, where to be careful, when to get help.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, before we move on, I just want to emphasize how important it is to stay informed about Ciguatera.
Absolutely.
Especially with, climate change and everything.
It's a growing problem.
And for more info, deep dives on all sorts of toxins.
Yeah.
Medicaltoxic.com and their podcast are a fantastic resource.
I second that.
All right. So we've only scratched the surface here. Ciguatera's got a long history.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the whole climate change connection.
Right.
We'll be back after a quick break to get into all that. Stay tuned.
We've been talking about how Ciguatera is a problem now.
Right.
But it's actually been around for a long time.
Oh, really?
Centuries. Even way before anyone knew what caused it, it was affecting sailors and explorers.
I had no idea it went back that far.
There are stories that Captain Cook's crew might have gotten Ciguatera on their trips in the Pacific. And old Polynesian legends, they talk about a sickness from eating certain fish. Sounds a lot like Ciguatera.
It's like a real-life pirate's curse.
Right. Crazy to think how scary that must have been.
Yeah, I'm not knowing what was wrong.
Exactly. It wasn't until, the mid-1900s that scientists started figuring out what Ciguatera was and those ciguatoxins.
So, pretty recent, really.
Yeah, and even now, there's still a lot we don't know.
That's wild. Something so old, still so mysterious.
It is. You mentioned earlier that Ciguatera is becoming more common.
Yeah.
Is that just because we're eating more fish globally or what?
Well, that's part of it, I'm sure.
It is, but there's another big factor. Climate change.
I was going to say, there's got to be a connection there.
Oh, yeah.
Warmer water, more algae, something like that.
Exactly. Warm oceans are perfect for those algae to grow.
The ones that make the toxins.
Right. And it's not just a slow increase in algae.
What do you mean?
Some research says that as the oceans get even hotter, we could see these huge algal blooms, explosions of toxins.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
Yeah.
And of course, that affects the whole food chain.
Right. The little fish eat the algae. The bigger fish eat them.
Exactly. It's like a chain reaction of poison.
So climate change is making Ciguatera worse.
It is. It's also affecting things in other ways.
Like what?
Well, warmer water leads to coral bleaching.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
When corals bleach, the whole reef ecosystem gets messed up.
Oh, I see.
Makes it easier for those toxic algae to take over.
So it's like a domino effect.
Exactly. Climate change sets off this whole chain of events.
And it ends with more Ciguatera.
Right. It shows how connected everything is, the health of the planet, our own health.
It's all tied together.
It is. So dealing with Ciguatera isn't just about food safety.
Right, it's bigger than that.
It's about climate change, too. It's a complex problem.
So we need a complete solution.
We do. More research, better ways to prevent it.
Okay.
And we have to protect the environment, sustainable fishing.
Reducing our impact.
Exactly. Big challenges, but hopefully we can make a difference.
With awareness and action.
That's the key. Now, we can't get rid of Ciguatera completely, but there's some really cool research happening.
Oh, that's good to hear. What kind of research?
Well, scientists are working on faster and more accurate tests for Ciguatera.
So you can tell if a fish is bad.
Yeah, and they're trying to make the tests cheaper, too.
That would be huge. Catch the problem before people get sick.
Exactly. They're even working on a vaccine.
A vaccine for Ciguatera.
That's the goal. Imagine being immune to the toxin.
That would be amazing. Sounds like there's hope.
There is. It's really inspiring to see these scientists working so hard.
Yeah, trying to solve this problem.
Absolutely. This has been a really eye-opening look at Ciguatera.
It has, for sure.
We talked about the history, the causes, the symptoms.
All the weird symptoms.
Right. And the connection to climate change.
Plus the new research. That's encouraging.
It is. We've also talked about how important it is to stay informed.
Yeah. Be careful about seafood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you think you might have Ciguatera, see a doctor.
Right. And for anyone who wants to learn more,
yeah,
medicaltoxic.com and their podcast are a great resource.
Can't recommend them enough. Knowledge is power.
It really is.
Yeah.
In this case, it could save you from getting sick.
That's the truth. So stay curious, everyone.
Stay safe.
And as always, thanks for diving deep with us.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have.
The history, the causes, all the crazy symptoms.
Right.
But what about, like, the long-term effects?
Oh, yeah.
What happens to people after they've had Ciguatera?
That's a good question. Most people, they recover fully.
Okay.
Within a few weeks, maybe a few months. But some people, they have symptoms that stick around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it can really affect their lives.
Like, what kind of symptoms are we talking about?
Well, fatigue's a big one.
Okay, so just feeling tired.
Yeah, exhausted.
Yeah.
For months, even after the initial illness is gone.
Wow.
And then the neurological things.
The tingling and numbness.
That temperature sensitivity, all that.
Yeah.
That can come and go for years in some cases.
So you could be dealing with that for years.
It's possible. It can be really frustrating.
I bet, imagine just feeling like your senses are messed up all the time.
Exactly. Makes everyday stuff hard.
Yeah, even simple things.
Like taking a shower or going for a walk can be really uncomfortable.
Or even painful, you said.
Yeah, sometimes.
So it really affects your quality of life.
It does. And then there's the mental health side of things.
Oh, right. We talked about anxiety and stuff.
A lot of people get anxious about eating fish after having Ciguatera.
Makes sense. You'd be scared to eat fish again.
And there can be depression, insomnia, trouble concentrating.
That's awful. So it's not just the physical stuff.
It's all connected.
So it's important to get help for that too, the mental health part.
Absolutely. Therapy, support groups, things like that can be really helpful.
So it sounds like there's still a lot we don't know about the long-term effects.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
But we know it's serious, that's for sure.
It is. And with the oceans getting warmer...
Right. Climate change.
We need to be even more careful.
More research, better testing.
Definitely. And sustainable fishing. Gotta protect the oceans.
For everyone's sake.
Exactly. Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has. I've learned a lot.
It's amazing how much there is to Ciguatera.
I know. I'll definitely be thinking twice about the fish I eat from now on.
I think we all should be. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. Understanding the risks, taking precautions, that's how we stay safe.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks for diving deep with us. Stay curious out there and stay safe.